All right, so this is just going to be like a quick video about my field training experience and some of the tips that I have. I'll kind of go through each day, or maybe not each day, but I'll have a list of things that I'm going to talk about. It shouldn't take too long, but I'll kind of start from the beginning and work our way to the end, and then give like some feedback over everything. Um, yeah, and I'll put more, or I'll talk more about it in person if you want to, things like that. So the first thing is, excuse how nasally I am. This kind of gets into my first tip. So I'm really nasally because once we had got to Vigilant Warrior, we were outside all day long and in the forest and all of this stuff. So my first tip is to make sure that you bring some sort of allergy medications if you're really bad with allergies. I'm normally not that like I normally don't get allergies, but when you're in a different state, when you're around their forestry, certain things could trigger certain things. So I ended up getting like sick, um, and so I'm still trying to get over that now since I just got back Friday night. Um, so yeah, so medicine, bring some sort of like antihistamine. Um, I'd also I'd also encourage you to bring like ibuprofen or Motrin or Tylenol or something. On TD1, I believe. No, TD1. I had like a horrible headache, and it was just because my body was trying to adjust to waking up at 4 a.m. and I just was not. My body just was not used to that. So by like 12 to between like 12 p.m. and 2, I ended up getting like a horrible headache. And had I had some sort of Tylenol or Motrin or something, that could have been solved. But I didn't get it, so I had to deal with that all day. So make sure you have like some sort of or um, allergy medicine or pain reliever. So that's my first tip. The second tip I have is gallon bagging. Cadet Coffee was not lying when she said to put your FTM in your journal. You will get a journal. So this is my journal. I kind of messed it up, but this is the journal that I have, or notebook. You do need to put your notebook and your FTM in a gallon bag. I say this because you will get on TD0, you will get issued a camel bag. And some of the camelbacks, some of the bladders don't twist on very well. And so what ended up happening was um, my camelback leaked and it actually made my FTM, sorry, it made my FTM and my journal wet. So like for 3 or 4 days, I literally had to be super careful with everything. So yeah, because like the pages were falling out. I actually ended up the whole front of my journal came. I also only have a back. I don't have a front. So yeah, so definitely put it in a gallon baggie as soon as you get it. Okay, so we're just gonna start from the beginning. So TD0 only had about 4 hours of sleep because I had to I had to drive to Raleigh. The plane didn't leave until like supposed to leave 7:30 in the morning. So technically, I should have got there at 5:30. I didn't get there until like 6:15. Shout out to Cadet Jingers because he helped me out on my first flight. So, because I did not know that you really needed to be there that early. I left Greenville at 4:45 and got there at like 6:15 ish something. Got to Raleigh Durham 6:15. So, um, trying to skip over that. Got on the plane. We got to ATL. Excuse me. We got to ATL around 9:20 ish. Give or take a couple minutes. We got there around 9:20, and then we went to the USO. So there are people in the airport there that are saying like they know that you are a cadet because you have on polo khakis and you have this big sea bag on your back or this big green bag and book bag and you're walking around. So they'll know that it's you. You're very obvious in the airport. So they're like, oh, do you want something to eat? You can go to the USO. You'll go up to the USO, which is like the Uniform Service something. Um, you go up there, they had like Bojangles biscuits. They had all sorts of food that people had donated. So that's what we ate. We ate there for free. Um, the ladies there are really sweet and they'll show you like how to check in and all this stuff. So definitely go to the USO. So we went to the USO, and then we went to the bathroom and all this stuff. And by the time we did all that, we didn't even go down the escalator of doom until 11:30. Um, so me and Cadet Jingers, we went down around 11:30, and once you get down, it's not true in processing, but this is where you find out which flight you're in, and this is also where you pay for your T-shirt, um, or the Max T-shirt. So it runs about $10 ish, but you have to buy it online. So they do allow you to use your phone once you get down there to pay for your shirt if you want to buy one, and then they'll give it to you towards the end of the max. So I didn't get my T-shirt until TD12. I want to say something like that, like TD12, TD12ish, because TD13 was graduation. Yeah, so like TD12, TD11, TD12, somewhere right in there. So you pay for your T-shirt, find out what flight you're in, and that's pretty much it. You fill out a whole bunch of random paperwork, which has like your religious preference and emergency contacts and all this stuff. So, yeah, that's what we did down there in the airport. I ended up getting on the third bus, so it really wasn't that bad. Um, it still was a 2 hour drive. We didn't leave. We didn't leave Atlanta until around one ish, between like 1 and 2, and we got there between like 3 and 4. So getting there between 3 and 4, since we did miss the first two buses, because they leave, there's two buses that leave, and they leave uh, in pairs. So they'll leave. So two buses will leave, and then they'll come back. Two more buses will leave and come back. So getting on the third bus, or so third and fourth bus, it was pretty dope because by the time I got there, the first and second bus, the people had already got assigned jobs. So I didn't get a job when I first got there. But I'm kind of skipping ahead. So we went through in processing. If you went to MDX, then you know what in processing is. So we did our height and weight. They did the medicine check. Um, they did the religious preference again. And that's pretty much it. That's all we did for that. That's all we did for that. And then we marched to our dorms. I was in X-ray flight, so I ended up having to go up 2 flights of steps. So I was on the third floor. And you do follow the flight path. Funny story. I actually passed my room twice because I was going so fast and I was just trying to get into the room, and my CTA's handwriting sucked so bad. So I ended up like passing my room twice, and yeah. So just make sure you don't walk super fast. Make sure you can slow down. Well, certain CTAs won't get mad. My CTA didn't get mad because I slowed down to look at each door, but I didn't make it obvious of just like stopping and turning my head, stopping and turning my head. I did like a slow down and like turn my eyes. So I still looked like I was keeping my bearing. Um, so that was that. So once I got there, I put all my stuff down, and then my CTA came and he was like, "You have 10 minutes to change your blues and do your FTO interview." I was like, "Okay." So I went to my FTO interview. She asked me like 6 to 8 warrior knowledge questions. So it was like some match comms, like I believe it was like 2 match comms, 3 quotes, and like 2 articles, something like that, somewhere around in there. But then after that, the remainder of the time, all I did was fix up my room and make sure that it was inspection ready. Um, Now, it still wasn't all the way inspection ready by the end of TD0. They did give us time on TD1 to get our rooms inspection ready because on TD2, we had our standby inspection. So, yeah, so they did give you time to make sure because it has to be standardized across the entire flight. So it's not just your room was in standby inspection. The standardization officer has to figure out how they want like the vanity and how they want all of your deodorant and hand wash and la da 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 whatever. Um, and depending on who gets there first and who starts filing in, once they start figuring it out, then you'll kind of come in as a team and you will say like, okay, well maybe we should put the deodorant here. Maybe we should do it this way. Um, he'll give the MFR and that'll be that. So that was that. Uh, let's see. So that was pretty much TD0. TD1, we started doing like practice flight drill evaluations. We did a lot of initial stuff. So like um, the field training unit commander briefed us, and they went down like a whole bunch of initial expectation stuff and how you grade it and all of this. One important thing about TD1, or at least for me, not important, but one thing that happened to me on TD1, I actually got a Form 17 because my security drawer was not locked. So apparently, what happened was I put my lock on, but I didn't lock it because I was just rushing because they only gave us, after we got back from Reveille, she was like, we had like 12 minutes to get ready or something like super. It was like 25 minutes, but this included like trying to take a shower and trying to make sure I put my blues on right. And I was just struggling. So I obviously didn't close my security drawer. They went in and checked, and I got a Form 17 on TD1. So, yes. Yes, so that's that. I got a Form 17 TD1. Okay. So, TD2, I like to think of TD2 as the hump because Cadet, oh gosh, her name just, Cadet Lupton. I had texted her right before I got on the flight to ATL, and I was like, any last minute advice? And she was like, once you make it, one thing that stuck with me was like, once you make it over TD2, everything starts to die down. So, and I'm here to tell you that that is pretty much true. At least for my flight, it was true. So, TD2, I like to call that the hump day, or at least the hump of the, even though it's like the second training day, but I like to call it the hump. Just because you're transitioning after TD2, you start hitting TD3, and this is when you start all of your instruction. So TD2 ends like your field training preparedness, like evaluations and stuff. So in TD2, I actually was assigned flight commander after we did our PFA. So one thing about the PFA, I actually ended up getting 89.5. I got 46 push-ups, 53 sit-ups. And what happened with my push-ups was I didn't fully extend. So like, I don't know if you can see this, so I'm gonna just put it here. So like I would push up, and instead of, so that you don't want to lock your arm, but like I would go and like stop about here, and you can still kind of see like a little bit of an angle there, and he wouldn't count my push-ups. So I ended up losing 5 push-ups. So I should have had 51, but I only got 46 because he wouldn't count. He wouldn't count them. So he wanted me to go all the way down and like literally come all the way up without pushing this out. So yeah, so that was that. So yeah, they do not play about form. If your form is messed up, they will literally keep saying um, like the same number. And then also, one thing that we do at our debt that's wrong is like we will count on the down when really you should count on the up. So like with sit-ups or like with push-ups, you go down, and then when you come up, that's one. And so that's when they count it. So it's not like when you go down 1, 2, 3. It's when you come up 1, 2, 3. So if you feel like they're counting wrong, they're not. They just count once you actually complete the entire push-up. So the down and up. Same with the sit-up. So you'll come up and go down. When you hit down, they'll count that as one because that's a full repetition of the sit-up. So yeah, my run wasn't too bad. It was like a little bit over 11 minutes, which I mean sucks, but com- I actually ended up catching a cramp as soon as I started running. I caught like a really bad cramp in my leg, and I was like, "Oh gosh, please help!" So, but I pressed on, and I actually made it through. So yeah, so that was TD2. I was assigned flight commander, like I said. Um, so I marched them from the PFA site to the dorms, which once you get there, you'll understand that it's actually a really long walk. Um, and so what ended up happening was I marched them to the dorm, or I was marching them to the dorm, and when I was trying to get back, I obviously didn't remember. I'm bad with directions, so I didn't know how to get back to the dorm, and so I was relying on my flight mates. And so I ended up marching them like in the middle of the street and all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. It was crazy. So she ended up switching me and my deputy and let the deputy become the flight commander. and marched us the remainder of the way. So that kind of helped me out because I did not have to perform the open ranks inspection. I didn't have to do any of that because my deputy did that. However, I did do the standby inspection in the dorms. So after we did our ORI, we went back to the dorms and did our standby inspection. We got inspected by NCO, Staff Sergeant Bryant. He was a black male. He didn't really talk much, but he was really funny because at the end of the standby inspection, so I was like, so you don't salute them because, of course, he's enlisted. And I was like, at the end of it, I said X-ray flights. All rooms have been inspected, something like that. I think that's the verbiage. All rooms have been inspected, and he legit looked at me and he said, "I bet," and then turned around and walked out. And it took everything in me not to break my barrier because it was like the funniest thing ever. So yeah, that was SBI. With SBI, he didn't really look to make sure like each sock and each thing was in the exact place. He just wanted to make sure that it was like neat. Now, one thing that he did look at was like the sinks. So he looked in the sinks. He literally was like, water's in this sink. A hair is in this sink. This mirror has a spot on it. There's lint on this comforter. So if it's an excessive amount of lint on the comforter, try to get it off. If not, then you can leave like a couple specks, but try to make sure everything is good. He was looking at the floor. He was like, piece of paper on the floor. So like it's real nitpicky, but at the same time it's not. So that was TD2. So we did, just to reiterate, we did our PFA, SBI, ORI, and then we started doing our flight drill evaluations. Yeah, so all the flight drill evaluations have to be done by like TD4 because after that, once you hit TD3, you start doing all of your instruction to prepare you for your deployment environment. So from TD3 to TD6, we did all of our deployment environment instruction. So basically with that, you'll go somewhere, they'll teach you for a couple hours, you'll practice it, then you'll take a quiz. And that's just how it's run. And you'll do that like all day. Yeah, so that's how majority of those days are run. On TD7, I actually had my FTO midway interview, whatever it's called. And she told me my score. So on my ORI, I got a 90. On my initial interview, I got a 95. The PFA, I got an 89.5. And on the flight drill evaluation, I got an 80. So, of course, we're not the best in drill. So the main thing is trying to make sure you keep your bearing while you're drilling, trying to make sure that you're calling things in the right form. So like you couldn't do a present arms while you were in column formation. It has to be in line formation. So stuff like that. So just knowing the difference between that, I knew how to do the normal stuff, so like column movements, half column movements. But with some of that stuff, it was like flanking, and when you flanked, it would throw everything off. In my eyes, it would throw me off. So I kind of, after I did like the first flanking movement, it just messed me up entirely. So yeah, I mean, but it's not that bad. Like I probably got one of the lower scores in my flight because everyone else got like 90s and above. There were a couple other 80s, but I'm pretty sure I got like the lowest flight drill evaluation. So yeah, TD7 to TD9 is when we started our pre-deployment scenario. So we weren't technically deployment, but we were trying to make sure that we remembered. We were practicing everything and putting it into play. And with these scenarios, we also this is where you are getting graded on your FLE. So we did the LRC on TD6, I think. Hold on, I'm looking at my journal. Yes, TD6, we did our LRC. So that's the first time you're graded with the FLE. And then you do a scenario either in the pre-deployment or in the deployed environment. You'll do another scenario, and that's with the FLE. So one thing about the FLE, since we really don't know much about it, I can tell you this. From what my CTA said, it's a lot better. So it does not even give points for mission completion. So don't worry about trying to complete the mission. Just worry about leading your people effectively. So with the fleet, everyone starts with a 50. So the highest points you can get is a 100. Everyone starts with a 50, and either you can go up or down from there. So with my LRC grade, I got a 45, which is the average. So the average for cadets our age is normally a 40 to a 50. 40 normally ranging from like a 40 to 45 is your true average. So the LRC, I got a 45. He told me that my command presence wasn't. He said he could tell that I was in charge, but I should have been more assertive, which really didn't make sense because everyone was still following what I wanted to do. But remember, everything is subjective at field training. So it really just depends on the person. If the person is not an assertive person, then they may not look for qualities of assertion. For him, he was a lot more assertive. So to him, because I wasn't constantly like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I was more so like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And I'll talk to them like human beings. Um, he said that I needed to be more assertive, which that's not the first time I heard that, but that's fine. So, yeah, so that was the first time I got graded on the fleet. The second time I did my scenario, I actually did it at Vigilant Warrior. The first day we got to Vigilant Warrior, and I ended up getting a 55, which is above average. My FTO told me that I needed to be more assertive and that my sense of urgency lacked a little bit. She was like, I still was urgent, but it still needed to be a little bit more urgent and I needed to be a little bit more assertive. But honestly, with the scenario I had, there was really no need for me to be assertive either in that scenario, which I can't tell you about it until you come back. So once we all get back, then we can actually talk about all this stuff. But it was really the scenario I had. It really didn't need for me to be super assertive. So that was that. However, she still liked how I led them and how I was open to everything and everything like that. So that was that. One thing that's different from the scenarios back at Maxwell Air Force Base than with Vigilant Warrior is with the pre-deployment scenarios. You'll do like they'll last long periods of time, but it'll only go for like your scenario may only last like 10 to 15 minutes. And as you go on, they'll get longer and longer. So like by TD9, the scenarios were like they had multiple phases and then they were like 30 minutes each. When you get to Vigilant Warrior, the scenarios will be like 2 and 3 hours long with 3 and 4 phases. So that just get your mind prepared for that. Just just try to have fun with it all. I had a lot of fun throughout my entire field training experience. I think that's pretty much. I think that's all I had to say. So I'll just tell you a couple other random things. So my flight, we definitely synced up by like TD 3 or 4. We had a lot of fun. There was no one in my flight that absolutely sucked, and we also didn't have any any like DG hunters in my flight, so that was good. We actually had some really good cadets. So my suite mate, he actually ended up being the group's safety officer. So not my roommate, but my suite mate. He was like across the bathroom. He ended up being the group safety officer, and actually our group, our group staff that started TD3, yes, TD3, they actually broke a record of actually staying group staff for 8 days. Normally, what happens is group staff members they get fired by a certain day. Normally, they only stay up for like 2 or 3 days, but they lasted for 8 days straight. So that's actually is I'm not. Yeah, they hold the longest group staff at field training. So yeah, that was just us. We actually ended up having like 3 people in our squadron that were on group staff. So that tells you that our squadron was good. We didn't get Warrior Squadron because some of our I'm guessing some of our scores and stuff were low. However, even our field training unit commander came up to us and was like, "We're really impressed with Squadron 8, and we love how y'all are." And literally, like every high-ranking officer will come up to Squadron 8 and be like, "Y'all are awesome. Y'all are like one of the best squadrons." But I think it came down to our scores, and some of our scores lacked, and so that's why we didn't get Warrior Squadron. or anything like that. So by like TD3, I believe, we got a flight bridge. So we did get a flight bridge. TD7, we got our mascot. You do anything to like bring yourself joy. So we got a mascot. Another tip with this. So our mascot was Skippy the peanut butter. It's literally like just like a little thing of peanut butter. That was our mascot. We taped him to our door, and so every time we would follow the flight path and walk around it, we would greet Skippy. So yeah, quick tip here: you're gonna be hungry. The 10 minutes in the DFAC sometimes is not enough to eat. However, to make sure that you get full and not constantly starving, because I was always hungry. Um, Eat you a PB&J. So like literally every meal, I had a PB&J, or like had like a piece of bread with peanut butter on it or something, because like sometimes the amount of food they give you is not enough. I will say that DFAC French toast is really good. Like I didn't know what they were talking about when like Cadet Bergstead and Cadet Roberts and all they were saying how good it was, but that DFAC French toast is good. The first couple of days though, like TD1 through TD3, I could not finish any of my food, because I just did not know how to eat all of my food in 10 minutes and drink three 3 ounces, 3 8-ounce cups of water or Gatorade. Like there was no possible way for me to do that. So like I would drink all my drink and then try to eat all my food, and by then it was like 9 minutes, and I would just have to stop. So I quickly figured out that spoons help a lot. So if you don't like your food to touch, I'm sorry, because you can't look down at your food and you can't be cute and try to be dainty and all that stuff. So literally, I was just like moving all my food around, just picking it up with the spoon. The other bad thing about it was, and this is kind of funny, because you can't look down at your food, or like you can't tilt your head down, you can only look down. Because I wear glasses, when I would look down, all I saw was like blur. So like I legit don't know what I was eating. So like I just mix everything together all the time. So yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention, on TD3, I actually ended up getting another Form 17 for security violation again, because my ID, I had put my ID and my 341s and my FTM and also my journal in my Ziploc bag, and apparently my Ziploc bag fell out at the DFAT, and it was a security violation, and they gave me a Form 17 for that. Normally, if you get a Form 17 in the same area, they'll like report you, but my FTO didn't do that. So, and I don't know if it's because I didn't even sign my Form 17, the second one, until TD5, even though I got it on TD3. And it was just because we were doing so much stuff, it just was no free time. So, yeah, maybe that's why she didn't do that, or maybe I just have favor from God. But whatever. So that is that. I believe that's all the information I do have. Oh, I know some people are worried about like drill and marching. Um, when you get into the DFAC, when you get under the tent, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. When you get under the tent, you will be in column formation. So you have line, or if you're facing this way, you have line, and then when you turn, you have column. Line, and then you have column, right? So, or line, and then this is column. So with the DFAC, you have to be at closed heart. So it's not the same as at close arm intervals, dress right dress. You would call that if you were in line formation, right? So in the DFAC, you'll be this way. You'll be this way instead of this way. So when you're this way, you have to be at closed heart. So with that, the way that you would call that is you would say closed heart, and then you would call cadence. So you would say up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. So you do it twice. So I learned it literally TD1 because I had never heard of that. But what happens is when you closed heart, you move so you have 3. So you have 1, 2, 3. The right side, they don't move. The middle column, they move 2 steps to the right, and then the outer column, they move 4 steps to the right. So it would be like up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, and you just literally are like this and then you just get closer this way. So that's basically what's happening with that. Don't worry too much about drill. Like, either you're gonna do it or you're not. Like, I didn't suck at drill. Like, when I was flight commander, I didn't suck at drill. Oh, I do want to tell you this funny story about how I got two 341s in the same day for the same thing. So on TD2, when I became flight commander, my CTA gave me a 341 for looking around while marching. Dumbest, or not while marching. I was at the DFAC, and while I was calling, like commands to move my flight, I was moving around or like looking around. But apparently, you're not supposed to turn your head. You're supposed to do facing movements to look around. So make sure if you are at the position of attention leading your flight, you do facing movements to look around. Don't turn your head. So I got a 341 at the DFAC. That was like that morning. And then later on in the afternoon, when we were on our way to do flight drill evaluations, I was marching the flight to the drill evaluation, and I ended up getting bug spray in my eye. So like I was trying to march them, and I'm just like 2, 3, 4, and I'm like wiping my eye. Literally, like I can't see out of this eye, and like it's just tears just rolling. And I'm trying to get the bug spray out, and one of the other CTAs for Whiskey Flight, was it Whiskey Flight? Oh no. He was our excuse that. He was our squadron CTA. He gave me a 341 for looking around again, but I had bug spray in my eye, but he didn't care because he was like, you should have kept your bearing, la 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 la, all of this. However, I think my FTO actually got on him a little bit about that because she was like, it's not fair because he had bug spray in his eye. So I don't think she counted that. So altogether, I ended up with 2 417s and 2 341s. If she didn't count the other one, then it was 1 341. So yeah. So I think that's all the tips that I have. The biggest thing is just have fun. Don't let what people say get to you. Because they're there. All the CTAs and FTOs are there. They are going to yell at you. They are there to scare you, or I don't know, not to scare you, but that's just what they're there for. They're there to cause havoc in your life, and you just need to know how to keep your bearing and just keep pressing forward no matter what. So yeah, the biggest thing was I kept my mind. I always remained positive throughout everything, which is probably why I enjoy field training so much. So like, it sucked, but it didn't suck. So like, the most annoying part was having to greet everybody and marching everywhere. The heat wasn't as bad. It was very humid some days, so the humidity was ugly, but the heat wasn't always bad. There were a couple days where we got really close to black flag, but we never truly hit black flag or red flag, whatever it's called. We never really hit that high of temperature, so we never really stopped. They do provide time for you to pause scenarios and exercise and give you break to use the bathroom, because you do have to drink like a lot of water to ensure that you're not getting dehydrated and constipated, and all of that. But I think that's all I have. Let's look and see. Oh, warrior knowledge. So as soon as you get off the bus at Maxwell, you literally go in for in processing, and while you're standing in the line, uh, while you're sorry, while you're standing in the line, you start doing warrior knowledge right then. Literally 2 minutes in, we ran in, and they were like, they literally were yelling. They was like, "What can you be doing while you're standing here?" They was like, "Somebody call warrior knowledge." So we literally were like yelling warrior knowledge while you're doing in processing. So, however, as the days went on, warrior knowledge decreased dramatically. So of course you do the Airman's Creed. You do the Air Force song every night, but like the first couple days, so like TD 0 through like TD 4 ish, we were doing warrior knowledge. But then after that, one thing that the academic officer would say is instead of doing warrior knowledge, he or she would say, um, study your notes from instruction because you need to remember this stuff. So like warrior knowledge died dramatically after like once we started doing like all of our instruction stuff. So like by TD4, you're barely calling warrior knowledge and mainly like doing just the Air Force song at the end of the night. Unless you're like just standing there in the DFAC, then you may call some warrior knowledge, but it really declined dramatically. Like literally by the end of field training, I don't know the last time we had called like the Airman's Creed or like Lisa Jasper quote or General James Chappie quote or anything like that. So yeah, but my flight was really fun. I had some really great people. We actually ended up creating a group chat for all 20 of us. What's also cool is that me, Cadet Gingras, and Cadet Armstrong ended up in the same squadron. So we all were in Squadron 8. Armstrong was in Victor Flight. Um, Gingras was in Whiskey and I was in X-Ray. Um, Me and Cadet Gingras were actually on the same floor. So Whiskey was over here and X-Ray was over here. So sometimes I would see him in passing. But once we started doing like scenarios and stuff, we were doing squadron operations. So like I would see him and Armstrong like almost every day. Um, but I like to call Victor Flight like the stepchild because Victor Flight was like on a flow below us with uniform flight. So Whiskey and X-Ray were a lot closer than Victor. Victor and X-Ray. So we just kind of thought of Victor Flight as just there, like they're a part of our squadron, but they're like the stepchild or something, the stepsister or something like that. So yeah, but ultimately have fun. Don't worry because the more you worry, the more you're going to stress yourself out, and the more you're going to um, mess up. If you're just one thing that we did hot seats one day, and one of the cadets told me that was in my flight. She was like, "Cadet Holmes is a really great cadet, but sometimes he doesn't know how to transition from like one point, or like he doesn't know how to reel his mind in." Now, this particular cadet, she was very assertive, and like she was always locked on it all the time. And one thing that I did to make sure that I didn't lose my mind was like I did let my mind wander while we were like on the bus and stuff like that. And that was just because one thing, like they can tell you how to eat, they can tell you how to march or like how to walk, how you need to do this, how you need to do that, but they can't tell you what to do with your mind while you're sitting down or riding the bus. So with me, whenever I got a chance or like I was sitting on the bus, I would just let my mind wander or not necessarily wander so much to where it's like, oh, life is da 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 da, like what's going on at home? What's going on? It was more so like, let's take a breather. Let's think about what just happened. How did you do? Did you do a good job? Are you being a good active follower? Just kind of chill myself out. That way I could prepare myself for the next thing that we were going to. Um, if I remained in a constant locked on, just locked on, locked on, locked on, I probably would have been a lot more stressed. But honestly, my mental health status was green from TD0 to TD14, and that had a lot to do, like I said, with my positivity and excuse me, my positivity and my flight mates. Like my flight mates were great. My roommate was great. He was very happy. Like he was probably one of the most happiest cadets in our entire flight. So that helped a lot too. So yeah, I think that's it. If you have any specific questions, just text me. If not, I'm done.